There's a quiet assumption woven into modern nutrition, one that almost no one outside of the nutrition field questions. You meet your RDA and you're covered. But what if that assumption isn't just outdated, but biologically misleading? What if the very guidelines meant to ensure sufficiency leave entire populations functionally depleted and they don't even know it? Today, we're revisiting a molecule that's long been relegated to preventing scurvy, but whose story has evolved far beyond that. This isn't about megadosing, and it's not about miracle cures. It's about whether our current recommendations for one of the most studied nutrients in human biology still holds up under the weight of new data, population shifts, and a much deeper understanding of cellular demand. The molecule is vitamin C, and the evidence is more complicated than what you've been told. Vitamin C as a deficiency can be easy to miss because it doesn't always begin with bleeding gums and bruises. More often, it begins with mood changes, with fatigue, with a kind of biological slowdown that's hard to put your finger on until it gets worse. Subclinical vitamin C deficiency, or hypovitaminosis C, refers to a state where plasma ascorbate levels are low enough to impair physiological functions, but not yet low enough to trigger overt scurvy. That's the primary deficiency syndrome tied to vitamin C deficiency. Vitamin C tissue levels decline in response to nearly all forms of stress. A subclinical deficiency is more common than you might think and more biologically disruptive than most clinicians acknowledge. A review published in BMC Psychiatry in 2020 systematically examined this and found that low plasma ascorbate levels, well above the scurvy cutoff, were consistently associated with depression, irritability, and cognitive dysfunction. In fact, the threshold at which these neuropsychiatric symptoms appeared often sat between 20 to 50 micromoles per liter. That's higher than the commonly accepted definition of even a subclinical deficiency, which is 11 to 23 micromoles per liter. Mechanistically, this makes sense. Neuroendocrine tissues like the adrenals, pituitary glands, and neurons have the highest concentrations of vitamin C in the body. In fact, 1/3 of whole body vitamin C is concentrated at the sites of catecholamine synthesis. Those are sites that synthesize dopamine, adrenaline, and noradrenaline. These are not subtle systems. They're central to mood regulation, motivation, working memory, and stress tolerance. And they're among the first to show signs of strain when vitamin C levels drop. We tend to think of vitamin C as a physical vitamin, collagen, skin healing, but in reality, the central nervous system may be its most sensitive target. In experimental models, vitamin C deficient animals exhibit not only fatigue and motor deficits, but also significant reductions in brain dopamine and serotonin metabolites. They show behavioral changes that closely mirror depression like phenotypes. These effects reverse when vitamin C is restored. In humans, case series dating back to the 1960s and reaffirmed by modern trials report that depressive symptoms, confusion, and asthenia, that's general muscle weakness, often improve within days of vitamin C repletion. But perhaps the most important point here is this: the symptoms of vitamin C deficiency can easily be misattributed to aging, to burnout, to psychiatric conditions, to poor sleep. Rarely is vitamin C status the first thing investigated, and yet, in an at risk population, from the elderly to patients with diabetes to individuals with psychiatric disorders, the rate of deficiency can go beyond 50%. And in fact, recent data is suggesting that even in people without any known disorders, vitamin C insufficiency may be a characteristic of half of the population. And this is the setup, because if suboptimal vitamin C status is this common, the natural next question becomes, are our intake recommendations too low for modern physiology? When we suggest that current vitamin C recommendations might be inadequate, it's not mere speculation. We're looking directly at recent large scale population data that shows a disconnect between recommended intakes and actual nutritional adequacy. A 2025 analysis by Anitra Carr and colleagues provides particularly compelling evidence. This study interrogated data from two major population cohorts: the EPIC Norfolk study in the UK and the N. Haynes 2017-2018 cohort in the US to evaluate how effectively current recommended dietary allowances for vitamin C translate to achieving sufficient plasma vitamin C concentrations, specifically targeting the widely recognized threshold of 50 micromoles per liter. This threshold is considered optimal not just for preventing deficiency, but also for maximizing vitamin C's broader health benefits, including improved immunity, metabolic health, and cognitive function. What this investigation uncovered is that despite participants consuming intakes at or even above current RDAs, only about 2/3 actually reached optimal plasma concentrations. Interestingly, among individuals whose vitamin C consumption was within 10% of the established RDA, that's 40 milligrams per day in the UK and 75 to 90 milligrams per day in the US, the situation was substantially worse. Just 35% of the UK participants and about 50% of the US participants reached the target plasma concentration. These figures suggest a serious misalignment between standard nutritional guidance and real world physiological requirements. The study highlighted an important factor behind this disconnect, that being body weight. Historically, vitamin C recommendations were developed based on an average adult reference weight of 70 kilograms. That's approximately 154 pounds. This assumption, however, no longer reflects the reality of global population trends where body weight has significantly increased over time. The researchers observed clear inverse relationships as an individual's body weight rose. Their plasma vitamin C concentration declined even when dietary vitamin C intake remained constant. Specifically, the analysis showed that for every additional 10 kilograms, about 22 pounds of body weight, plasma vitamin C concentrations dropped approximately 2.6 to 3.5 micromoles per liter. In practical terms, this means a person weighing approximately 200 pounds would need an additional 34 to 44 milligrams per day of vitamin C beyond the current RDA just to reach the same plasma levels achieved by someone who weighs 70 kilograms or 154 pounds. The data suggests that the fundamental assumptions underlying current vitamin C RDAs may themselves be flawed. Typically, the RDA is derived from the estimated average requirement, also shortened to the EAR, which is then adjusted by a standard deviation of about 10%, an arbitrary figure that may not accurately reflect true population variability. In fact, the CAR study found that the actual variability in vitamin C requirements to achieve adequate plasma concentrations was closer to 57%, indicating that to genuinely cover the needs of 98% of the population, the RDA might need to be as high as 175 milligrams per day. That's dramatically higher than the existing US guidelines of 75 to 90 milligrams per day. These findings are not minor adjustments. They represent a fundamental shift in our understanding of vitamin C nutrition. The data strongly suggests that our current RDAs, though sufficient for preventing the overt symptoms of something like scurvy, are inadequate for addressing subtler yet important health functions. Millions of people may therefore be unknowingly suboptimally supplied with vitamin C, not due to negligence, but precisely because they're faithfully adhering to guidelines that were never truly calibrated to the diverse metabolic demands of today's population. We've been talking a lot about plasma vitamin C levels, but plasma vitamin C provides only a snapshot of recent intake, fluctuating with dietary consumption and being tightly regulated within a limited physiological range, typically 30 to 70 micromoles per liter in healthy adults. Now, in contrast, tissue saturation and functional vitamin C stores are more reliably assessed through leukocyte concentrations. Leukocytes are white blood cells of the immune system. These cells accumulate the vitamin at significantly higher levels, often 5 to 100 times greater than plasma, thanks to active transport mechanisms. Leukocyte levels of vitamin C are a more accurate measure of intake and tissue stores of vitamin C. Human cells become fully saturated with vitamin C at relatively modest intake levels, approximately 100 milligrams per day, due to these highly efficient transport systems. Yet, interestingly, this saturable active transport mechanism also means there's diminishing bioavailability with an increasing dose of vitamin C. At typical nutritional intakes, like 15 to 200 milligrams per day, absorption efficiency is very high, around 80 to 90%. However, as intake exceeds roughly 200 milligrams per day, absorption begins to decline dramatically. By the time an individual reaches intakes of around 1,000 milligrams, only about 50% of the consumed dose is absorbed. In other words, more at a given time, it's not always proportionally better. Moreover, while plasma saturation typically occurs at daily doses of around 1,000 milligrams or more, this plasma level doesn't necessarily equate to optimal whole body tissue saturation. Total body vitamin C stores are estimated to be around 1.5 to 5 grams in healthy adults and are primarily distributed in tissues such as the adrenal glands, pituitary, liver, and muscle, which have a high demand for antioxidant protection and enzymatic functions. Thus, achieving full body functional saturation and optimal physiological support may require intake levels higher than our current RDAs, yet significantly lower than the megadoses often promoted commercially. And this nuance leads us naturally to consider the different forms of vitamin C. It's not just about how much you take, but how well your body absorbs and uses it. Many assume that getting nutrients like vitamin C directly from foods is inherently superior to taking synthetic supplements. However, the reality is a little bit more nuanced. A question researchers have explored is whether food-derived vitamin C, particularly from sources rich in bioflavonoids, differs meaningfully in bioavailability and effectiveness compared to synthetic ascorbic acid from supplements. Collectively, the data seems to show that both synthetic and food-derived vitamin C appear equally bioavailable when provided in typical nutritional doses between 15 to 200 milligrams per day. This means that at moderate dietary intake levels, our bodies efficiently absorb and utilize vitamin C regardless of the source. However, there's an interesting twist when intake increases significantly. While moderate doses of up to approximately 200 milligrams are almost completely absorbed, higher doses around 1,000 milligrams or more begin to show a notable decline in absorption efficiency, dropping to about 50% utilization. This shift happens because at lower physiological doses, vitamin C absorption predominantly involves saturable active transport mechanisms, ensuring a very high uptake, but at very high doses, passive diffusion, which is much less efficient, takes over, leading to reduced bioavailability, at least proportionally speaking. One aspect often touted in favor of food-based sources is the presence of bioflavonoids. These are natural plant-based compounds found in citrus fruits and vegetables that usually accompany dietary vitamin C. Bioflavonoids are believed to have synergistic effects with vitamin C, potentially enhancing its antioxidant capacity. Although these claims have some merit in animal models, it doesn't seem to matter as much in humans. As it stands, data indicates that these bioflavonoids, although beneficial for other health aspects, do not significantly boost the bioavailability or metabolic utilization of vitamin C. Practically, this translates to an important takeaway for listeners. While eating a diet rich in fresh fruits and vegetables ensures a range of health benefits beyond just vitamin C, for the specific purpose of optimizing your vitamin C status, synthetic supplements can be equally effective. Again, if we are only talking about vitamin C as a single compound. If food and synthetic vitamin C at typical doses show similar biological activities, then why would we even consider specialized supplement formulations? Well, it's possible that achieving and maintaining optimal cellular levels can be done more seamlessly with more advanced delivery forms. Recent research from Calder et al. 2025 systematically analyzed various advanced supplement forms, exploring their comparative bioavailability and retention within plasma and leukocytes. One well-studied formulation is calcium ascorbate EC, commonly known as ester C. This is a non-acidic buffered vitamin C combined with metabolites such as calcium threonate. The evidence consistently supports that calcium ascorbate EC not only matches, but in certain circumstances exceeds standard ascorbic acid in enhancing leukocyte vitamin C levels. Studies found that at doses of 500 to 1,000 milligrams, calcium ascorbate EC improved leukocyte vitamin C retention significantly better than standard ascorbic acid, sometimes by up to 24 hours and even post 24 hours. Moreover, data indicates additional advantages of calcium ascorbate EC in immune modulation. For example, controlled studies showed that calcium ascorbate EC at higher doses, 500 milligrams and above, notably enhanced immune cell function, specifically neutrophil phagocytosis and natural killer cell activity. This functional enhancement directly translated into fewer colds and shorter duration of severe symptoms compared to a placebo, suggesting superior real world immune protection. Another innovative form is liposomal encapsulated vitamin C, where ascorbic acid is encapsulated in lipid bilayers. This encapsulation enhances stability, reduces gastrointestinal degradation, and significantly increases bioavailability. Clinical trials have demonstrated that liposomal vitamin C achieves substantially higher peak plasma levels, approximately 27% higher, and greater leukocyte concentrations compared to conventional ascorbic acid. Specifically, the liposomal form produces about 20% greater peak leukocyte concentrations, implying enhanced immune cell uptake and retention. An intriguing variation includes formulations like vitamin C lipid metabolites, also called pure whey C, combining vitamin C with fatty acids and bioflavonoids. In head to head comparisons, this form delivered notably higher serum vitamin C concentrations rapidly within the first few hours post consumption, suggesting superior short term absorption. However, whether these serum elevations correspond directly to improved leukocyte retention or long term functional benefits still requires further validation. Conversely, sustained release formulations often prolong plasma levels, which can help maintain elevated vitamin C concentrations over extended periods. Although studies confirm these forms increase plasma levels effectively, clear evidence on leukocyte retention or immune enhancement is still emerging, making definitive conclusions about the immune related benefits less certain compared to liposomal or calcium ascorbate EC forms. Across these studies, an important theme emerges. Superior plasma concentrations don't always directly reflect improved leukocyte or tissue vitamin C status. Leukocyte vitamin C levels appear more reliable as a biomarker for immune function, suggesting that certain forms, like calcium ascorbate EC and liposomal, may offer functional advantages beyond simply elevating plasma concentrations. Safety and tolerability further differentiate these advanced forms. Calcium ascorbate EC consistently demonstrated fewer gastrointestinal adverse effects due to its neutral pH and buffering capacity, even at doses exceeding 1,000 milligrams per day. This better tolerability potentially encourages greater adherence and compliance. Those are important considerations for practical supplementation. This nuanced understanding sets the stage for practical guidance on how listeners might adjust their own vitamin C supplementation strategies to optimize their personal health outcomes. Given everything that we've discussed, the key question now is, how should you approach vitamin C intake differently? First, it's clear that the traditional RDA, that's 75 milligrams a day for women and 90 milligrams a day for men, is built primarily on preventing scurvy, not optimizing health. For many individuals today, especially those with higher body weight, chronic stress, or increased inflammation, these recommendations may be inadequate. Emerging data strongly suggest revising typical daily intakes upward, with practical targets often ranging between 200 to 400 milligrams per day for better overall saturation and actual functional efficacy. Moreover, not all vitamin C is equal in terms of absorption and retention. For everyday dietary intake, foods like kiwis, citrus fruits, berries, bell peppers, and leafy greens remain optimal sources. They're reliably bioavailable and provide additional beneficial compounds like fiber and bioflavonoids, even though these bioflavonoids don't significantly enhance vitamin C absorption itself. Supplemental vitamin C becomes especially valuable under higher physiological demands, as we've seen advanced supplement formulations like calcium ascorbate EC, again, that's ester C, and liposomal vitamin C show clear advantages in specific scenarios. Calcium ascorbate EC consistently demonstrates enhanced leukocyte retention and immune support benefits, with the added advantage of significantly better gastrointestinal tolerability, especially at doses exceeding typical dietary levels. Again, that's between 500 and 1,000 milligrams. Meanwhile, liposomal forms offer superior bioavailability, achieving higher plasma and leukocyte levels, valuable when rapid absorption or acute immune support is necessary. For most individuals seeking consistent everyday support, a moderate dose of 200 to 400 milligrams per day, preferably split into smaller doses, provides excellent tissue saturation and sustained benefits without the sharp declines in absorption seen at higher megadoses. Those facing specific immune challenges, higher stress, or periods of illness might strategically use advanced supplemental forms at doses up to around 1,000 milligrams per day to maintain robust immune cell concentrations without overwhelming absorption pathways. Ultimately, vitamin C supplementation should be personalized. Consider your weight, stress level, general health status, and even your gastrointestinal sensitivity when choosing both dosage and formulation if going the supplement route. Monitoring your body's response, like energy levels, recovering from stress, and overall immunity, can also help guide adjustments. The takeaway here isn't about megadosing vitamin C, it's about recognizing that optimal health isn't simply avoiding deficiency. It's actively pursuing the levels and forms of nutrients that best match your unique physiological needs. Vitamin C isn't just about preventing illness, it's about optimizing wellness. Thank you for joining me today on Daily Value. If this episode was useful to you, please like and share. Until next time, stay healthy.